Hello, students. Welcome to week 6, Landscape Week. With the spring buds just starting to come out, and if you look closely, you're going to find some. This is a great week to explore this design discipline, especially as it warms up. So once again, we're outside this week for my overview of the module. And behind me, you can see some landscape. It hasn't been what I would call designed landscape, but it's landscape nonetheless. We have some mountains of sand. We have Lake Erie in the background. We have what's called the truck wash in the foreground. And then in front of that is the Buffalo River. Uh, the truck wash area of this is on Kelly Island, and I think that this is ripe for some landscape architecture interventions. So you might want to think about what should be done there. I mean, it has been kind of talked about that it might become a park, it might become a golfing range. There are all sorts of things that the city has talked about in terms of what might happen there. But most likely it will be some sort of landscape design that happens. The other thing that's really interesting about living here is that if you look at those mountains of sand across the way, they come and go over time. And so I often joke with my husband about the fact that we have a changing landscape with the growing and shrinking mountains. I think it's used for partially used for the streets in Buffalo during the winter, as well as a few other things. So this is a great spot in terms of thinking about landscape and what could happen in the landscape world. If you want to see some wonderful examples of good landscape architecture, take a little trip down to the outer harbor along the lake, which is just south of Buffalo. I mean, it's just south of downtown. It's in Buffalo. It's something that most people just don't see, but it's absolutely wonderful. There are all these little parks all along the way, and each one is slightly different and offers a different kind of thing. One's a skate park, one's a place for music, one's a place for biking. It's just wonderful. And so as the weather starts to warm up, I really beg you to go have some fun there. It's really worth it. Okay, now let's get into some of the things with the course today. The design of landscape spans the entirety of our existence. However, it wasn't until relatively recent history, the mid-19th and early 20th century, that the term landscape architecture came into common use. In fact, some people credit Frank Lloyd Wright with inventing this term. Like architects and urban designers, landscape architects analyze, plan, design, manage, and nurture both the built and the natural environments. They design so many things. It's a pretty small profession, but they have their hand in so many elements of our environments, parks, campuses, ours could use a little help, streetscapes, trails, plazas, and other kinds of projects that help to define a community. As I mentioned earlier, this is a relatively small profession with only about 16,000 licensed landscape architects. That's difficult to say in the United States, and that data is as of 2022. I have a feeling it's going to creep up as we become more and more environmentally conscious, though. The aspect of landscape architecture that I find most interesting is that these designers are always thinking about the future. What will this place be in 1 year or 5 or 10 or 25 or even 50 or 100 years from now? This kind of speculation, coupled with the fact that nature is unpredictable and it's always growing and changing, makes landscape architecture one of the most imaginative of the design disciplines. Okay, so the materials for this week give you a good historical and contemporary overview of all of this all-encompassing area of design. So we're going to start out with a series of five-minute videos that introduce you to landscape architecture concepts. These little videos were actually made by the GSA, but they're a wonderful introduction. I used to give a PowerPoint introduction, but these are better than what I can do. So I threw my PowerPoint into the supplementary materials. Then we're going to move on to a short but great article from the Atlantic magazine that introduces you to the assumed founder of landscape architecture in the US, our very own Frederick Law Olmsted. Then you can watch a video about Olmsted's involvement in the design of Western New York. You know, we have one of the best park systems in the whole country. It is fascinating to see how much of our region Olmsted had a hand in. And if you've been in the school for a little while, in the School of Architecture, or familiar with the school, you'll see several faculty members and former deans, etc., in this video. It was produced locally by PBS. Then we're going to introduce you to Walter Hood, the landscape architect who designed the Solar Strand on the North Campus. He is one of the most well-known contemporary landscape architects, and his African-American heritage has influenced his work in powerful ways. He has a chapter in the text that we use called Diverse Truths, and you're not going to need to know what those are, and as well as a TED Talk, and watch that TED Talk because he sings in the beginning and it's quite beautiful. And then finally, we're going to end with a short piece on the High Line in New York City, one of the most well-designed landscape architecture projects in this country. Now, this video, it's a two minute plus video. It's not about the people who designed the High Line. That would be Diller and Scofidio, as well as James Corner, who is the landscape architect. Instead, this video is featuring the people who actually use the High Line. So I think you might enjoy that. And then I don't know if you actually look at the supplementary section each week or not, but in this week, I think it would be a pretty good idea to do so, because some of this could be quite useful for the discussion questions, especially if you're among the last to respond to the question for the week and you need some examples that others have not used. Also, if you want to use the Teardrop Park as an example, which is at the beginning of this module, you may feel free to use that as one of your examples. We think that you're going to find this package to be an intriguing look both backwards and forwards through the lens of our designed outdoor environments. As usual, after you've completed the activities, you're ready to take that 10-question quiz and jump right into the discussion group for your critical thinking question. And if you need a break, check out the Something Fun category. And as usual, if you have something for this category that would work for any of the upcoming weeks, please send it my way. A little side note, you know I like to have fun and I love prizes. So I have a little possibility for you. This is something about typography. So it beckons back to the communication design module. One of the most well-known fonts and one of the most well-designed fonts is Helvetica. It's just really a really beautiful typeface. So I tend not to use it in the course itself, but I do use it in these videos in some way. So if you can figure out what that is, let me know. And the first two people to chime in and let me know what that might be will get a small prize that has something to do with Helvetica. Okay. Now, last but not least, given that this is Landscape Week, make sure to go outside and take a closer look at how much of our landscape has been designed. Can you find some good examples? I've given you one, but there really aren't that many out there. So look really carefully and enjoy the wonder of the awakening ground this week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.